No, I like doing it, obviously. It's great.
And the cities you mentioned, we've got Romford, which is close to where I live, so I always played Romford.
Okay.
And I thought I might spot like the town hall or something. But obviously, they're not actually based on the real cities.
No, it's just read-only memory with Ford on it. That's it. Sorry, yeah. I've never been to Romford.
You haven't missed much, trust me. And the other cities? Afternoon everybody, and welcome to the next talk at Crash Live 2024. I've got with me today a young man who wrote many legendary games from the Spectrum, Mr. Mike Richardson. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause please.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, Mike, as I said, wrote many famous Spectrum games back in the day, one or two which have become extremely well known today. So we're going to talk about all his games really from start to finish. But first of all, we're going to start with a different computer because, like a lot of people, coders back in the day, Mike didn't actually start with a Spectrum. He started with one of these beauties, a Commodore PET. So maybe, Mike, you can start by telling us a little bit about your early experiences with computer and the Commodore PET.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think I was very interested in chemistry when I was young. So I wound up working in a quality control lab in an aerosol factory. And I think a law came in about 77, 78, something like that. So such that they had to record the average weight of a sample of the cans. So they got a few Commodore PETs in to help with that. And the boss took me out one day and said, "Would you like to try programming?" And yeah, we went to Yeovil. Saw a guy called Nick Hampshire there. I think he'd written some books. And he was selling PETs and fiddling about with other bits and pieces. And yeah, so we went over there, and I remember, like, on the way back, we stopped at a newsagent's, and I've not looked in the technical section of a newsagent before, and I was just staggered that there was books about electronics and computing. And yeah, I bought a mag, and in there was an advert for the Science of Cambridge Mark 14. So that was like my first electronics project.
That was, of course, by Science of Cambridge, who would go on to become Sinclair.
Sinclair, yeah. So my sister had a friend who enjoyed electronics, and he showed me how to solder the bits together and stuff. And yeah, so I remember looking in the manual of that, and it was just complete gobbledygook, basically. And so they had quite a few sample programs in the booklet. They had quite a few sample programs in the booklet, which you had to type in. And I was just amazed at what it could do. Just that. It just had an LED display. And then one of the programs was a music program. So you just had to solder a speaker, it says, to this pin, run this, and it could play music. I was just blown away, really.
Well, yeah, exactly. It might look very primitive by today's standards, but this was cutting edge. Obviously, I presume this is the early 80s, isn't it? And tell us a bit about your experience with the machine to the bottom right of there, which is a programmable calculator.
Oh, yeah. So at work, they had we had the HP Hewlett-Packard. Early programmable computers, they had like a little magnetic strip you could record programs on, and we'd use them for various calculations that we do all the time in the lab. So yeah, it was quite fun tinkering with those. It was interesting introduction to like programming, and they used reverse Polish notation way of doing maths, where you put in your two operands and then perform the operation on them, which is a bit not like a calculator, but yeah, those were the days.
Yes, indeed. And then obviously the Spectrum appeared in 1983, and it kind of transformed the, while not necessarily the computing scene, but certainly the games scene in the UK. Tell us a bit about how you first kind of realised that games were a thing.
Yeah, well, I think when I with the Mark 14, they did a video card with that. It was very low res, but I tried because Space Invaders was quite prevalent in the pubs and stuff. So I thought, I'll try and do a copy, do that on there. So I soldered on another K of RAM, but ran out of memory doing that. So it was a bit, and actually typing 1K of code into a Mark 14 is arduous task.
Very painful one.
So so I started thinking about it on there, and then I think I was we did gas chromatography at work, which is right, you pass the gas up a tube, chemicals go round it at different speeds, they come out at the end, and I went on a course for that. And I think it was a 2-day course, and in the evening, we were in the pub, and people were playing on the games, and they were saying, "Oh, these games, they're really, really clever." And I thought, well, I could do that. And then later on, of course, I bought a Spectrum, just a 16K at first, and I started writing a game. I'd seen it on the TV. I think it was a game by Activision, with a guy swinging on a rope.
Pitfall.
That'll be it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wonder if I could do something like that. So I started doing that, and then there was an advert in the paper for somebody was looking for people to write games. They said it's not a job, but it's like you might be just people who are interested.
So we're not going to pay you, basically, they were saying.
I think so. Yeah.
And that was Durell, presumably, was it?
Yeah, that was Robert from Durell. Yeah, and he'd so he came. I got in touch with him. He came around one day. He'd been. I think he was mainly working on the Auric. He'd written a few, because he imagined that he wouldn't be able to compete on the Spectrum, certainly not on his own. So he was writing basic programs and putting remarks in, commenting them out to sort of show how the program was put together, with the idea that they were educational. So I think that's what he got me to do at first, but also I was doing this game with a swingy man.
Yep.
And so I did a couple. I think I did Lunar Lander on the Spectrum, and then I did
Jungle Trouble was the next game.
well, that was the swingy man thing, but also in the other thing, it was on the computers Lynx. I did a game called Dambuster.
Oh, okay.
On that, which was the same sort of loads of comments to educate people, as if I could do that. But
and the interesting thing was that you just basically applied to an advert, and you already mentioned Yeovil. Both yourself and Durell were based in the West Country.
Yeah,
a hotbed of Spectrum development.
Yeah, well, it's a hotbed of everything, isn't it? Well, cider mostly. But yeah.
So let's move on to Jungle Trouble then, which was your first major game. We will talk a little bit about Lunar Lander in a sec, but this was your first big game for Durell, which is made on 60. I think it was any Spectrum. Yep, any Spectrum.
So it's 16k. I think I only had a 16k.
Yeah, fair enough. And like you say, it's obviously influenced by Pitfall, as you can tell. Now, I spoke about this in the talk earlier with Sandy White and John Kane about these games. You tested them yourself, and you kind of get to play them, and you work out how to play them, and you don't think that anyone that buys them is going to be suddenly playing it for the first time. This looks really easy here, doesn't it? You've got a little stick man there, right? And what you have to do is you have to jump across all those stones to get to the ladder at the end. And is that supposed to be? Is that a crocodile? I think it is in there. So if you fall in the water, the crocodile gets you. You can jump, you can run out, but you die if the crocodile gets you.
Of course.
And the way that Mike did it was you have to run to the right, get the axe, and then skip across the stones. But the timing you need to do this, it was quite difficult.
We had a lot of returns from angry people saying, "This man won't jump. My man won't." So, and the reason why he won't jump is because I thought when you do a run and a jump, your legs are going like cyclical, and then you jump. Well, when you jump, your legs aren't still going like that, are they? Well, maybe they are a little bit. I didn't think they were. So you have to let go of the forward and press the up. And I think people just keep going forward, and it didn't work. You just fall in the water, and nobody got that.
I think I managed to get to the third one, and then there were a few expletives when I was trying to get to the fourth one, and I never got any further than that. And then, as you do these days, you look it up on YouTube, and you look at, how do they do that? What are they doing? You know? So what are they doing that I'm not? But yeah. The thing was that this was a single screen game. This is the whole game, isn't it? If I'm correct.
That is the whole game, because I thought I was going to have a second screen, but there was not enough memory. Sorry.
So talk us through, Mike. You know, because I've never actually managed it. Talk us through what happens when you get to the other end.
Right. Okay. So you jump across. You get your axe. You jump across, avoiding the crocodile up the ladder. Well, I think somewhere along the bottom there, you get these little monkeys come out, and you climb the ladder. You start hacking at the trees, and if you're not careful, the monkeys come out and they steal your axe.
Obviously.
Yeah. I mean, you could scare them away. I think you could actually. I don't like to say it, but you could kill them.
Oh dear.
Yeah, not good. So you chop down the tree. So you hack at the trunk, and the top part starts wobbling. You have to run away. It falls down. Obviously, if you stay by the trunk, it falls on you. That's not so good. And so you have to chop them all down, swing across the fire pit, and then as you get to the other side of the fire pit, the ground opens up and you fall back down.
Oh, a sudden death, lovely.
Unless you've learned how to jump.
So you get to all this little bit of jumping, then you cut down some trees, and then finally you get to do the swinging like you loved in Pitfall.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
That is it. But I made it so that the axe gets blunt. So you can't just do it all in one. You have to go back and get another axe.
Right.
And well, I thought it would all be over too quick otherwise.
Yes. Yeah.
So
that is essentially the problem, isn't it? It's a one-screen game, so you're trying to just extend the life of it, but instead you've got lots of angry customers returning it. But despite that, it was an excellent seller for Durell. There's the guy. Look, I did actually manage to do it once, and I think he's cutting down the tree. I'm not sure really, but
you can see a little nick in it there.
Oh yeah. So but you had to extend the life of these games somehow, and obviously the easiest way to do it was make it very, very hard.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll chat briefly about Lunar Lander as well, because you've already mentioned it. So this was an early game you did, which was published in a magazine, I think, wasn't it?
Well, I don't remember that, but I looked online, apparently, yeah. But before that, it was available on cassette. But I think it was just mail order, because it was very early. And
so did this come before or after Jungle Trouble, do you think?
I did them both simultaneously. I mean, I was still working at my job as well at the time. But yeah, because obviously Robert wanted me to do the lunar lander thing, and I wanted to do the other thing.
Well, it's quite apt as well because it's obviously an arcade clone, and there were a lot of them about at the time, and it was an easy thing to base it on. But let's move on to your next game. Excuse me, which is possibly the most well known of your early games, which is Harrier Attack.
Yes,
now,
it's not my game, but anyway.
I know it's yes, yeah. We'll get onto that. So explain how it's not your game then.
Well, it's not my game. Well, I think it was because obviously it was just after the Falklands War. The Harrier was a very popular aircraft at the time. It was our hero, and so I think it's Robert's idea. And so Robert was the big cheese, and then Ron Jeffs, he did it on the Auric. He wrote it on the Auric, and then basically I copied his Auric version. I added a few other little things, but not much. So I just actually it was before I did Harrier Attack. That was when I left my other job and did this full time.
Okay, so you could see that you could make a career out of this then, obviously.
Yeah, well, I thought, I wasn't sure. I mean, people at the time were saying things like, it's just a fad, people in the future won't be interested in computer games.
No one will ever have a computer.
That's right. Well, why would anybody? It's just so hard to make it work. So, I mean, it's understandable why people would say those things, I think, at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad still does say it's a fad, but anyway. And then you did Harrier Attack, so it's based on Ron's idea, but it's obviously a scramble clone, essentially. But I just want to point out this bit because I don't think that was in the Auric version, where you have this nice bit where when it's finished loading, it kind of the Harrier fires out of the screen, which is a nice effect that you didn't really get a lot in the early days of Spectrum.
Well, I thought people after sitting there waiting, they deserved a little surprise.
A treat.
Yeah, so...
Being fired at was your treat.
Yeah, well, most people survived, I think.
and then there was a slight controversy with Harrier Attack, because obviously, like you've said, it was based on, really the idea was from the Falklands War.
I wasn't sure of the ethics of that.
Yes, exactly, and particularly with this bit at the end, where you save up all your bombs and you get to bomb a city.
Yeah.
Which I'm quite enjoying here, but you know, that was quite good fun. But that was basically the idea, wasn't it? So you negotiate all the way through the military bit with the flak and everything, and bomb the hell out of this little town at the end.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's like, all I can say is it's not my game.
Okay, fair enough.
And it's a bit like killing monkeys. It's just I should have done something different with that. You just frighten the monkey. Runs away or something. That would have been better. But hey ho. We used to kill things in the old days.
We did indeed. Let's blame Ron Jeffs. So moving on from Harrier Attack, your next game was probably my favourite of yours, the brilliant Scuba Dive, which, like most of your games, has a fantastic cover. We'll get onto the covers in a minute. But this is the loading screen, and obviously you play a scuba diver. Now, in a marked change here, we went from ultra-violence to, where's my gun? Where's my spear gun? Because you were literally unarmed in Scuba Dive.
That's right. And there was debate about whether to have a weapon. Robert's wife, Vonnie, was a pacifist. She wasn't... I mean, not that she didn't really have a lot to do... Obviously, she had a lot to do with Robert, but not anything else particularly. But I think we were aware that she wasn't keen to have weapons in things or to have fighting. But, and from my perspective, I love fish. I'm a fish person, so I don't really like to kill them. But actually, they're quite nice to eat sometimes.
Yeah, well, this obviously features a lot of fish, as people can see on the screen now. And one of the creatures that I always loved a lot, which I admired a lot, was this. We'll see it in a sec. Is this octopus here? I always thought it's an amazing creation, and that's actually one of the challenges of the game. The first thing you've got to do is slip past.
That was very good. Who did this?
That was me.
That's very impressive.
I'd like to say that was my first try, but I think it was about my 21st. But yeah, and you basically, it's an exploration game, isn't it? That's what you came up with for this.
It is an exploration game. Thank you. But there's not. Yeah, it's not a very exciting exploration game, I don't think, because there's not a lot down there.
Well, I think that's part of the appeal of it. It's quite a relaxing game to play. So after the fury of bombing innocents in Harrier Attack, you get to like plunder the deep for its treasures.
Yeah, well, yeah, you do. I really enjoyed doing the animation of the fish, and that's the best part for me.
Well, let's talk about that, because this, for me, it's a big technical jump up. Did you feel that? Because Harrier Attack is obviously a lovely game, but lacks maybe a lot of the animation. All of a sudden, you've got a lot of animated characters here. I don't know if we've seen it, but there was a shark as well, which turns around, and obviously you've got the octopus. So, did this feel like a considerable step up for you?
Well, for me personally, it has a completely different realm, because I didn't think. Well, I know I can't draw, and that's why in Jungle Trouble it's a pin man. I thought there's no way I can draw a guy, but yeah, I surprised myself, and I was quite amazed when other people were saying, "Well, that's really good." Yeah.
What did you use? What did you use for reference?
That's an interesting question.
I mean, you watched Jaws, obviously.
Yeah.
Got it on your T-shirt.
Yeah, that's right.
And the sharks do look very much like Bruce from the film Jaws, don't they?
One of them does, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I must have got a book from the library, because there's no internet. I think I must have got a book, maybe. Can't actually remember now. Or maybe just from things that I'd seen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And fair enough. And a school, yeah, very good. Yeah, got it from school. Yeah. What about the control in? Because I was talking to Sandy White earlier about the control in Ant Attack, which is rotational, and obviously it's rotational in Scuba Dive as well. So, why did you implement that?
Because as you go lower, the caves get narrower, and I didn't. If you were doing it, you'd have to be travelling forwards. What would be the other way? I can't think. Sorry, I can't think. But it gives you more control, because you have to rotate and go down to the shells and stuff and get stuff. So I think it's just a matter of being able to get that fine control, because you're very close. If you touch the rocks, you're dead. So you need that fine control to be able to play the game.
Yes, it's a very hazardous cave, this one, isn't it?
It is quite sharp coral, very sharp coral.
After this, I mean, already we've seen you've done a platform-style pitfall type game. You've done a shoot 'em up, and you've done an exploration type game. And now we move on to a simulation game, which is Combat Leaks, which I presented here with its full wraparound cover. It's got a lovely cover, so I thought I'd show the full cover here. So it's like you're testing yourself out with all the different genres that you can do on the spectrum. Was that what you were trying to do? Just sort of test your skills on different types of games?
Yeah, I deliberately didn't copy what I'd done before, I think, in as much as it was ever my decision. So I don't know. Was there another genre like this at the time? I don't know if you'd call it a genre or not, but I think this because I think Robert was into the military things because he thought they sold well. So obviously he's done the Harrier, now do the helicopter, and we had the factory in Yeovil for these, what was it, Lynx.
Mm.
And
Westland, yes. Who said that? Very good. Yeah, Westland.
yeah, very good. And so I think so he was talking about doing a helicopter game, and I was, although I'd given up my job, I was still doing my masters in instrumental analysis. So to do that, I just seen an electron scanning microscope, and it was like scanning lines, giving a sort of terrain look. So I thought, I'll copy that, and so that's what I did.
Okay, well, we'll have a look at that in a sec, but I just wanted to show everyone you did another nice intro here. So when you loaded up, you got another little treat. So there's Combat Lynx loading. So it's not shooting the player this time, it's shooting a tank in the background.
Yeah, there's nobody in there, so that's fine.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yeah, empty tank.
Just some fish.
No. We don't kill fish.
And then you had the game itself, which I think this was your. It certainly was a Crash smash. Was very very popular with Crash as a sort of because it had a shoot 'em up angle to it, as well as simulation. So you had all this topography, which was nicely rendered. I haven't got a video of this one, unfortunately, and so again, quite a different game from your last one. Must have been quite a challenge.
It was quite different. I was quite. I thought I was pleased with it in a way, and of course the most interesting part is loading up the weapons. It's not interesting to look at, but you get something to do, and I find that like the gameplay area is quite large, but there's nothing in it. Not very much anyway. So like if you find a tank to destroy or something, you feel quite pleased. I mean, I don't know, it probably wasn't received that well. I don't really know, to be honest, because I tried not to read reviews and stuff. But yeah, and you have this little, so you had like bases, 4 maybe, because they were at compass points, and you had to fly from one to the other delivering stuff, and I thought, although in a way I was pleased with it, in another way I thought, how very tedious.
Well, you say about it being received, but I know it did get a Crash smash, so obviously
right.
Some critics, at least the best ones, appreciated it for sure.
Yeah.
And then we've got Combat Lynx here on this picture here as well, Mike, and I put here together a few of your covers for all your Durell games, because I just wanted to talk about Durell a little bit. Most of us would have had a Durell game, and they really were one of the, in terms of, they didn't have a massive output, but in terms of quality, they were certainly one of the better. You could trust that if you had bought a Durell game, shelled out your £8 for one of their games, you were probably going to get a good game. If it wasn't one of yours, it was obviously one of Clive Townsend's Saboteur games as well. Yeah. So what was did you work actually at Durell, or were you a freelancer, and what was it like working for them?
Well, it was quite pleasant generally. I think so. Robert was very nice. I get along with Robert. He was a bit posh, but nice guy. And so I think the first 18 months I was freelance basically, and then I was deemed to be earning too much, I think. So he employed me instead. And yeah, and he had an office in Taunton, which his father-in-law owned, I think, where people would gather. I wouldn't go in there very often. I worked from home mostly, so I didn't really see many people very often. I can't really remember. I remember Clive's name. I remember Nick Wilson, because I've worked with him since. Don't really remember. Oh, Ron Jess, of course. But I think like Clive and Nick were about 10 years younger than me. They were like teenagers, really. So I had a wife and children. It was like a bit of a different thing. But yeah, so I just used to work on things at home. I'd bring them into the office to demonstrate them to Robert, and everybody used to be very impressed.
If I say so myself. What about these covers here then? Did you have any say in the artwork or anything, or was that all done by Durell? Because there's some cracking covers there.
Yeah, they are very good. No, they're done by a friend of Robert's. I don't know if it's a college or maybe a school friend, I'm not sure. I mean, I do know him. What's his name?
Tim Hayward?
Tim, yeah. And yeah, so I think they concoct them together probably. I mean, Tim's a very good artist. He does mostly birds. But yeah, no input from me whatsoever.
Okay, well, they kind of did all right without you, I think.
Yeah, they did. That's right. Yeah, it's going well. Leave them alone. Yeah.
Durell, in front of all its games, it had this notice about piracy. Was it a topic that was addressed a lot in? I wonder if anyone ever grassed anyone up and got the £100 reward. But
I don't actually know.
I mean, no one. Just to be clear, no one here ever pirated a game.
No, I understand.
None
that.
of them.
No, neither of
Not even that guy at the back who's looking a bit nervous now.
No. Well, I don't think, to my knowledge, nobody ever grasped up on anybody. But I mean, it's a bit of a strange thing to do, isn't it? I can't imagine that the sign made any difference at all. Really, you needed to change the hardware, which you couldn't do. Well,
at least they didn't have a lens lock or anything like that instead. The sign was a lot easier to negotiate. So
yeah, that's right.
Right, let's move on to possibly your most well-known game now, which is Turbo Esprit, which has been called an influence on Grand Theft Auto, of all things. And in Turbo Esprit, you essentially, your job is to, obviously you're driving the titular car, and the idea is that you are driving around trying to catch these drug dealers and gangs and whatnot. But I suspect that most people who played it did the same as me, which was just drive around causing utter mayhem, or driving very sensibly and then getting fed up and then causing utter mayhem. So tell us a bit about sort of the genesis of Turbo Esprit, which is really another sort of step up in your games program.
Yeah, it's the pinnacle, I would say. So Robert had, I think he got in a market expert consultant guy, and I think he came to the conclusion that we ought to do a car game. And I think Robert thought it would be good if we could do it in a city. So then I had to figure out how to do that. So I think I used really the same technique as I'd used in Combat Lynx, where it's lines, and there's like, I don't know, 80 lines, and as things move forward, they get bigger, of course. So you have like a line of data in the memory, so it's saying how tall things should be, stuff. Yeah, I think it was absolutely packed. I tried to compress as much as I could, and like for the steering wheel, it's done with line drawing and fill rather than storing graphics.
I mean, it's incredible. You managed to squeeze a whole living, breathing world. I mean, I haven't really got. I'll show the video in a sec, which shows it a bit better, but. You've got like throughout there's little stick men walking up and down. You've got a zebra crossing, or just a crossing as it is here, and there's other cars.
I didn't want people killing zebras.
Fair enough. You can run down people and blow them up with your car, but yeah, the level of detail is just incredible, and it made the world. And I think that's why myself and other players like to just like drive around, because we just didn't have that then, this freedom to just wander around. I mean, did you know that this was kind of unusual?
I think I probably did. Probably. I mean, it took me a long time. I think I was working on it for 10 months. Right. And but I did have my first child, well, not personally, but you know what I mean, during that period, so I was kind of babysitting, feeding as well at the same time. But yeah, I think technically it was a big technical challenge. And definitely. And tell us a bit. I'm going to play the video now, so it'll play a little bit of music, I think. Yeah, which is a sped up version of the title screen music, I think, isn't it? And then you can like you mosey around. It's a bit like me on my way to work, really, driving the wrong way around. Yeah, on the pavements.
Yeah. So you can sort of like head down these streets. But what I think kind of appealed to a lot of people was it's kind of got this like bleak aesthetic to it, which these days obviously you could mark as a comment on maybe the 80s or something, but it almost has like a ghost-like quality. And I mean, obviously the reason is, I presume, was because you couldn't put in much detail because you didn't have much room left.
Because you'd be doing one frame every few seconds or something. So yeah, you couldn't put much detail in, but I did my best.
But you do have some nice things like there's petrol stations, which I think I'm just about to pull up to here, and a few little details like that.
Traffic lights. Yeah.
Traffic lights, yeah. So if you're being good, you can like obey all of these and just drive around and just have fun. And as I said, it might not appear like too big a thing these days, but I think definitely back then it was a really novel experience. And we thank you for that.
No, I like doing it. Obviously, it's great.
And the cities you mentioned. We've got Romford, which is close to where I live, so I always played Romford. Okay. And I thought I might spot like the town hall or something. But obviously, they're not actually based on the real city.
No, it's just read-only memory with Ford on it. That's it. Sorry, yeah. I've never been to Romford.
You haven't missed much, trust me. And the other cities, we've got Gainsborough.
Yeah, why?
I don't know, you wrote it.
I can't think of a reason for that.
A real place, Gainsborough?
It's a shower.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Maybe you were in the shower and you came up with that
subliminal shower, yeah. Could be it.
So, and also I think because the memory was so tight, isn't it? If you wanted to play a different city, you couldn't go back to the start. You had to.
Yeah, you had to reload because it was in the buffer.
Fair enough. What was Durell's or Robert's reaction to Turbo Esprit when you showed him Turbo Esprit in it?
I can't remember, of course, but he was always impressed. I think he was always very pleased.
Yeah. Fair enough. Now, it was quite a well-received game, which we'll come to in a sec. We're going to talk about your Crash reviews, because obviously this is Crash Live, so we've got to talk about classic Crash a little bit. But before we get onto that, we're going to talk about Thanatos, which was your next game. And again, another completely random change. We've had a driving game about catching drug dealers in contemporary scene. So I know what I'll do next. I'll do a game where you play a dragon, and you're like burning these people alive as you're terrorising this place. So yeah, was this another sort of move to just do something a little bit different?
Yeah, I think after the Turbo Esprit, Rob just said, do whatever you like. So that's what I did, and because I'm quite into Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and that sort of stuff, and I thought, usually you do, in a game you have a character that's quite small relative to the screen size, and I thought, what if you had a big character? Would that work? It doesn't really work that well, I don't think, but it was an interesting thing to try, and I think there's some things in it, and there's a lot of killing in it, but I think it's obviously fantasy killing, so I wasn't too worried about that. There's a lot of things I love about that game.
I've got a bit of video here of it working. I mean, this is, for me, I remember seeing the Crash review and thinking, no, you can't be controlling that, that's just incredible. So not only have you got this big creature, but the wings are, or one wing I suppose, is beating up and down, and you're flying to the left and to the right, and it also turns and completely animates when it turns as well. I can't remember if I got that on screen as well. So absolutely incredible, really. There you go, look, it's turning around now. So how did you even start going about doing this, and did it get to a point where you wish you hadn't started?
No, I don't think it got to that point. No, I think again, the landscape is done in the same way as Combat Lynx, so same technically. And the animation is, I just, after Scuba Dive, I just found that I love doing animation. And I thought, well, I'm going to have a big character, and I chopped it up into parts basically, and had little bits in memory, and just stuck them all together. Yeah.
Well, it's another towering technical achievement,
Yeah.
and Thanatos was again well received by the press. Sorry, was there something else you wanted to
I think
say?
it was. Well, I was just going to say, like, there's things I like about it, like the you have to fill a refuel your flame. You have to turn around and find a witch that's tied to a stake as a sacrifice, and but when you land to eat the witch, the knight comes out on his horse.
Oh, he tries to save her.
Yeah. You have to fly off, grab the knight off his horse. You can drop the guy off the horse onto some other guy and kill him. I just liked it, dropping things when you could pick up loads of stuff.
I hope Robert's wife wasn't around when you were doing this.
Like I say, I felt it was acceptable because it's fantasy, and it's obviously fantasy. So
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
We've talked briefly about your reviews already in Crash, and before we get to the rest of them, we're going to just talk briefly about Sigma 7, which I believe was another Ron Jeff's game.
Yeah,
was it,
not my game.
Yeah. But this was after. It did make me smile playing this again, because after tackling all those different genres, you decided to tackle a few more genres, or Ron did, inside one game. So this is, we've got a Zaxxon style shoot 'em up, then there's a Pac-Man type game, and then there's a puzzle game to round it off.
Yeah, well, you surprised me because I've not heard of those things. I thought it was all new. No, I didn't really, but it was Ron's game. I just ported it over to the Spectrum. Maybe the Amstrad as well.
Yeah, fair enough. But that was I think a underrated game on the Spectrum, as we'll see in a minute, because we're going to get onto the reviews now. And your first game, Jungle Trouble, was a big hit in the Living Guide on Crash. That got a good score. Faith, can you see the score on that again? My eyesight's not that good. But that was a decent score game, certainly. And then as we go on, Combat Lynx also secured a Crash Smash.
88.
So that was very popular. And as Faith just said, 88% for a Crash Smash. Now, a few games this happened to. I think Spy Hunter was another one. Traditionally, you needed 90% to get a Crash Smash, but they obviously loved you, Mike, because they gave your game 88%.
I suspect Robert. No, I shouldn't say that.
Allegedly, yes. You know all that advertising. So Combat Lynx, 88% Crash Smash. Scuba Dive, 92 was that? 92, no Crash Smash. Shocking behaviour, isn't it? And then, most famously, and this was something that the original Crash team was never allowed to forget, Turbo Esprit, one of the most iconic games on the Spectrum, one of the most legendary games, was given 88%, I think, again, and again missed out on a Crash Smash. So, what was yours and Robert's kind of reaction to this, if you had one? You know this is Crash Live, yeah?
So live. Didn't you? Well, I tried to steer away. I did read reviews of my own games. I tried to stay out of magazines, and it didn't do me any good mentally.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I've always thought that's a bit odd that Turbo Esprit just missed out, but there was a few games like that, and I'm sure in retrospect, it should have definitely got a smash, but it didn't. But it got 88%, which is a pretty good score, and most of us really love it. And then they made up for it with Thanatos, which was your next game, which did get a Crash Smash.
Yeah, but I spoke to Robert a couple of years ago, not that long ago, and he was saying that the sales of Thanatos were ridiculously poor.
Oh. Well, it came out in 87, I think, maybe 88. So
87.
Yeah, it's a bit early, but for the sales to be affected by the demise of the Spectrum, I'd say. So.
Well, Robert blames the
December 86. There you go. Thank you, Faith. So, was this a contributing factor to Durell escaping from the software scene? Do you think?
I would think so. Definitely. Yeah. But. Yeah, I mean, at the time, I had no interest in what the sale. I didn't know any sales figures at all. So,
before you finished up with Durell, or Durell finished up, did you work on Saboteur 3? We got a picture of a recovered snap from Saboteur 3. Is this your work as well?
Yeah, that's not the best
There's obviously not much.
That is my work. Yeah, it was really after the demise of Durell that Robert was working on his insurance broker software, and I came back to him. I was working on that as well. He said, "Oh, I need some money. Perhaps we could do a game and flog it on some other publisher." But so it was going to be like a 4-part game, and I'd written the first part on the Spectrum. I was porting the first part over to the Commodore 64, and he'd obviously been out trying to see who was interested, but nobody was interested. Like you say, I think it was too late.
Yes.
At that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was quite pleased with it. But I wasn't really into the shuriken-y, masky type thing.
Ninja type thing.
That's the one. Yeah, and so I had this guy. I saw him more of a sort of James Bond, but maybe a young James Bond. And yeah, I did the first part. He came on a helicopter, jumped onto the top of a lighthouse. There was some dangerous wiring in the lighthouse, I seem to remember. Obviously you need a lot of volts to light it up. And then, yeah, there was like a key, the sea, a shark. There was a, what do you call those things you scoot across the water on? Jet ski.
Oh, jet ski, right.
Jet ski, you had to go to a buoy, there was a shark. Actually, the shark was out of Scuba Dive.
Back to fish again.
Yeah. But I was quite pleased with that first part.
Is there anything, we're just running out of time now, Mike, is there anything you can add about Spitfire, which was like your final game for Durell, which is kind of a shoot 'em up type game, I think, that came out in '89 for a budget label eventually?
Yeah, it's not my idea. It's another war-themed thing. I was trying to think, what could I do to make it interesting? And so I think the premise of it is you have to tip those, what they call those bombs that they sent over from Germany. V1. V1. You had to tip the wing.
Right.
I think that was mostly it, really. But wasn't very pleased with it. Didn't really want to do it particularly.
No, fair enough. It was kind of well, I think it never came out from Durell. I think they put it on the budget late Encore, I seem to remember. So anyway, that was it for you on the ZX Spectrum. What did you do after? Did you resume your earlier career?
No. Well, I couldn't because I was doing chemistry before, which I was interested in, but didn't feel I was that good at, and I felt when I started programming I found something I was good at, so I've been programming ever since. So I think I was working for probably about 3 years with Robert on his
insurance software.
And then Nick Wilson came into, he's quite cheeky, Nick Wilson. He came into the office and said, how do you fancy working on a game? So I jumped at that, and we did Space Hulk, Vengeance of the Blood Angels on 3DO machine.
Excellent, yeah.
I was quite pleased with that game. And then we were going to do Saboteur 3. Sorry, Clive. And with IDOS. So this was like when Tomb Raider had come out, and that fell through ultimately because I was trying to code stuff that didn't really work out. And then what happened then? Did I have to go looking for? I think I had to go looking for another job. I ended up at Runecraft in up North Yorkshire. I did Barbie Explorer.
The pinnacle of your career.
Yeah. I was quite pleased with it in a way. I didn't design the game, but I coded it. And I did a graphic When you get to you're in Peru, you're climbing up a mountain, snowflakes come down. They look more like feathers, but I did that.
Okay.
Graphically. But yeah, people laugh about Barbie Explorer, but I don't have a problem with it.
Fair enough. Well, thank you, Mike, for chatting with us today about your Spectrum games. We've certainly got a lot of great memories here of all your games.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much for that. Round of applause for Mike. Chris will have prints now of this lovely picture of Mike's games, all the covers to Mike's games, which are available. Mike's going to sign copies of that for anyone that wants them. Thanks so much for listening again. I just have a short announcement about the Bob Hamilton talk, which I believe is supposed to be next up, but unfortunately Bob is stuck on a train, which is on fire, so thoughts to him. I hope he's okay. He is okay, isn't he?
He still plans to be here.
He still plans to be here, so...
But we'll reschedule the talks a bit later.
Okay, so his talk will be rescheduled, so pay attention, everyone, to the announcements, and hopefully we'll get to speak to Bob at some point.
No, that will be 3:30.
Playing this game at school then, that's a problem.
Thanks again.
Can you quite like that? Saboteur was the best Durell game ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just to Clive. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mike.
Yeah, love Mike.
You've got your photos, put it on now, so...